Well, doing a very important next step for the mk4 Supra. Willie is just measuring up now how we're going to fit this Jericho. So obviously we want to fit the motor, but we need to at least rough cut the hole for the Jericho as well.
Yeah, so what we did to get the rough placing of this for now is measure the distance of the 2J back of the engine to the mounts, and so that'll sit where the factory belt housing sits. That might get pushed back a little more later on, but we'll see how we go. We just need to physically get the gearbox into place before we can put the gearbox and the motor in. So probably want to be a bit conservative about how much we cut out to start with, because it's easier to cut more out than put it back in. So come around here and see the major problem we have is this big gear shifter here, which is offset and obviously won't fit without a fair bit of chopping out of here. And then the other wet issue is this gearbox sort of side here, so we'll have to trim some out of there too.
It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be when I was looking on the ground. Like, I always expected to cut out that, just because that side shifter, but it's quite flat on the top, eh? The old box.
Yeah.
Oh well, time to cut up just a cheap junk old Toyota to make this box fit.
Turn the brain off and chop.
Yeah. What'd you do to our bloody trans tunnel?
We're going back now.
Yeah.
Genuine mk4 trans tunnel. For sale.
We'll put that on Facebook Marketplace. We can put that. We can sell that with the with the gearbox. Oh well, that's a big fucking hole.
Let's put the gearbox back into place and see what else we need to chop out.
Well, now we've got some rough cuts done. Not perfect. Might still need to be trimmed out a bit more. But now we just put this motor on here and gonna sort of try and throw it on the hole and see how it lines up. Maiden voyage in. How back can I go? Sorry? Yeah, keep me on next. Drop it down there. Push this forward a bit. Yep. Wee. Push it down a bit. Definitely have to go back, so we can just drop it down. And there we go. We have 3S and a jza80. The gearbox hung there. I don't know whether you can see through the glare, but yeah, that's very close to its home. Right, so we've got the motor and box all sitting here. It's sort of roughly in place. So there's a few things we need to take into consideration when we're mounting an engine and box into a car that obviously it never came out of. We want it sitting nice and central first and foremost. Symmetry is good. What we also want is the angle of the drive shaft to have the same angle at both ends, so it can go up and down, but you want the angles to be spot on. So if we've got a 3-degree angle at that end, then we want a 3-degree angle at that end, for example. We want it nice and straight. In this case we've got both the end of the gearbox and the diff sitting in the centre line of the car. And then what we also need to check is the end of the gearbox, whether we want that centered in the car as well. So we just shimmy it up with a nice little wedge there. Actually works really nice. And then so this is a plumb bob, drops down, and then we just measure to the chassis. And then if we come to the front here, simply a case of shuffling the motor over, measuring the distance from the rails to the centre of the crankshaft, now it's all sitting pretty good. So now we're going to drop the car down and start tacking up the front engine mounts. So now we've got the engine somewhat squared up, starting on the mounts. So Willys just bent up a bit of pipe here. It's going to sort of come off that mount there forwards to these. Didn't record anything, but just cut these up and welded these up. So I cut that out on the plasma, then welded that up, so that will sit on there so you can access the nut, and then we're going to scallop that bar that Willys holding, and that'll weld to the side.
I'm going to make this fit there. Just needs a bit of trimming, and then a bit of shaping, a bit of scalloping.
And then it'll look like that one. And here we go, it's our jza80 to 5S engine mounts. I just finished welding those up. Very hot, I will not touch them. And well, that's a major step of this done, so they can get bolted to the motor, and then we can work on the gearbox cross member. Right, we are here doing the final block preparation. So this is going to go off to the machinist soon and get bored and honed and everything checked. Before we do that, we've just got a couple of wee jobs to do. The main one we have to do is machine the oil feed for the turbocharger. So this being a 5S block, didn't come turbocharged in factory form. However, they do put the casting there for us. So what this does, it actually gets cross-drilled into the oil gallery, and that oil feeds the balance shaft assembly. So we're going to remove that. So what we need to do is block that off. We'll do that once it comes back from the machinist. But what we've got here is a, I don't know what thread that is, but it's probably a bit of a difficult one. So we're just going to machine a flat on there and then drill and tap it to M12 by 1.25. Now we'll swap this machining bit out for a drill bit. Bottoming tap, so that'll get the thread right to the bottom of the hole. Right, so we'll go over what we've done with the block and some history on it. So this block is a 5S, and so obviously they're a 5S FE poverty spec thing. You could use a 3S block. There's no reason you can't put the 2.2 litre crank into the 3S block. The blocks are the same general architecture, and so you can use either. The 5S though is a stronger block. The 3S blocks are well known for failing around 500 horsepower. They tend to crack bores due to the thin walls. The 5S block has a thicker wall and also a harder material. And so these are renowned for holding a lot more power, up to 1,000 horsepower I've seen on the internet. How reliable they are, I don't know. We'll find out. So that's why we've chosen to use this block. And while it bolts up to the head and everything like that, there's a few little differences between the 3S and the 5S. And obviously we're turbocharging this motor, so it had no oil feed for the turbo. So we have machined a hole there into the gallery for the turbocharger oil feed. And another Achilles heel of the 3S 5S series is blowing head gaskets. It's actually a pretty easy fix though. These have 10mm head studs from factory, and for a non-turbo car they work perfectly well. You put some boost into them and their head bolts stretch and you blow head gaskets. I've done it many times. However, a simple upgrade to an 11mm head stud effectively solves all those issues until you get up to running really silly power. I've played with these things for years, and since I upgraded to an 11mm head stud, I have never blown a head gasket. Touch wood. So, as well as drilling out the block and tapping that to M11, you need to drill out the holes in the head as well. So we have done that as well. And a big thing we've also done with this block is cryogenically treat it. So this freezes it so it gets really cold, and the science behind it is a wee bit of a mystery to me, but they say it rearranges the grain structure to make it stronger. It's a well established technology in the aviation and aerospace industry, so it's obviously useful. So we're just doing everything we can to keep this block nice and strong. We intend to push it pretty hard. So yeah, we're just doing everything we can to keep it in one piece. So we're going to take this down to the machinist shortly, and he will enlarge these bores to suit our pistons, and also check the tunnel bore and make sure that's all nice and round and nice and even along all of the bores. We're going to run ARP studs in all of the main caps, and so this does have the potential to squish the bores for the tunnel a little bit. And that is about it.
That is our fancy block. So before we take this down to the machine shop, I think it'll probably be a really good time to do sort of a bit of a parts haul. We'll get out everything we've got for the motor and show you everything while it's all out of the motor and before it all gets assembled. So we'll get into what we bought for this thing. Well, actually I lied. You're going to have to wait until the next video. So you may as well just subscribe so you get the notification of when that's going to be. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.